Hello, my name is Tammy Nelson, and I am the oldest sister to three of the members you have there: Carol Reemsma, Rose Bricky, and Diane Moore. Some things happen in our lives that we can't explain with our human thinking, things that we cannot deny God had his hand in. Many of us like to call such events or circumstances a God thing. To my understanding, Carol was asked to be a part of a certain group of members there that was going to put into action the series called Campfire Stories. What a wonderful idea to put a bunch of God thing moments together. As I understand it, she met with this group and they sat there talking about ideas, and then they all turned to her and she sat there blank faced, telling them that she had nothing. She didn't even know why they asked her to be there. Not that Carol has not ever had her own God thing moments. She has. But under pressure, my guess is that her mind went all over the place and she couldn't quite pick up on one single event. So, for some reason, she thought of me and a few God thing moments in my life. I believe she told them about the day when God delivered diapers to my front door. And I think she told them about the day God caused it to rain down branches from the trees in the woods around my home when I so desperately needed firewood to keep my kids warm. She may have even told them about the day, a Friday, that the water stopped working in yet another home, and it would be 3 days before the well company could come out and fix it. Well, 2 adults, 4 kids, no water, not good. So we packed up and we went to stay the weekend at my parents'. And the very next morning, while I was at work and the rest of my family was at my parents', that house burned down due to a faulty fuse. The fire inspector told us that if we had been in the house, no one would have survived. But I would have, because I would have left for work 45 minutes before the fire even started. So I would have been the sole survivor. God saved my husband and my 4 children that night. That day, Friday, when he dried up that well. Now, years have gone by, and I've got so many God stories that I could tell you. He takes me deeper into the depths of understanding his love than I have ever dreamed possible. But I'm here to share the latest one, the most wonderful God thing yet. My 3rd child, my sweet daughter Diana. Ditto is her nickname. That's another story. But anyway, she has been a spirit of a pure heart since birth. Angelic is the closest word in comparison that I can think of. She could never bring herself to tell a lie, and she could never bring herself to do something wrong. She just couldn't. And today she's 27 years old, and for her whole life, she has kept God in her forefront daily. I can't find the words to explain her adequately, but from the age of 10, she has been afflicted with psoriasis. It covers her whole body. Red patches topped with white crusts. And of course, we've tried everything. From meds to home remedies, you name it. Some with undesirable side effects, like the prednisone, which caused her weight gain, and numerous laying on of hands and prayers. But, we've learned that sometimes God answers prayers immediately, such as diapers, or the wood that I needed. Sometimes his answer's not just yet. And sometimes the answer's just plain no, like when I prayed that he would put water back in that house, and restore that on that Friday before it burned down the next day. Back then I could only see the moments I was living in and not trusting that God sees a bigger picture. Ditto's learned much earlier than I did to trust in the bigger picture. She has faith that God knows what he's doing with everything. And all these years she has accepted this affliction with the idea that God will do something marvelous with it to help someone else someday. That's how Ditto thinks. It's always how God might use her to help someone else. She's an inspiration to me. Well, some months ago, I started praying to God once again, asking him to take it away from her, to take away that psoriasis. It weighed so heavily on my heart. But this time I said, if someone had to carry that affliction, let it be me instead. I felt Ditto deserved to be free of it because she has had such a love for God that no one can measure. After 17 years of living with the marring of her beautiful skin, 17 years, recently She began to show signs of it clearing up like we have never seen before. And the joy that shows in her smile, the excitement in her voice. I have a picture here. Carol will have these pictures personally, and I hope you can see this. The bottom is just a few months ago, and then you can see it clearing up here, and then this is the top one is today, this one here. It's just I'm just so ecstatic over it. But it wasn't long after her skin began to clear like that, and one day I woke up and I had psoriasis in many places. As the week went by, that psoriasis moved all over me, and I thank God and I praised him for finally beginning to free my ditto. She's my child, and I love her more than I love myself. What mother doesn't? What mother doesn't want to shield their children from pain and suffering, or be able to take away any sickness or affliction they have? And how blessed am I that God will allow me to do that? But Ditto's joy, it quickly changed as she began to see the psoriasis on me and my physical suffering of it. She was very saddened and conflicted because she didn't want her mom to suffer so that she could have her freedom. She felt that her own freedom of this affliction came with a great price, a price she didn't want anyone to pay. One strange thing you should know is I got mine in ways that Ditto didn't. I got it in places she didn't, such as my hands and feet. Even more bizarre is that I got it so bad in the palms of my hands and the arches of my feet that my skin would split there, deep gash wounds. If I moved them, such as my hands to grab things and my feet to walk, with every move and step, the gashes would tear or rip apart even more. The pain is excruciating and agonizing. And during one of my worst breakouts, which I had quite often in the beginning, I don't know if you can see this, but there, Carol once again will have this in the hands, and then there's a foot. Let's see. Gashes there. Those are gashes. Those are splits in the skin. And you can see those pics if you want. Also after a few days of that weird thing starting to happen to me, I also got a new spot on my skin that began to tear and bleed. And that was my side. Freaky, I know. So now, about 3 weeks ago, I had to get some photos from Carol for a DVD I was making for her. And she saw the psoriasis on me, and she learned that I had prayed for God to give that to me so that it could be taken away from Ditto. So she was aware of that much to this point. But 2 weeks ago, I was sitting alone at my kitchen table talking to the Lord about this. I told him, how thankful I was that he was freeing my daughter of her affliction. I was happy to live out the rest of the days of my life till death in this physical state, as long as my Ditto was free of it. But I had to ask him, why? Why am I getting it worse than she had it? Why am I getting these wounds too similar, to like Jesus had? I just felt there was more to this. There's always more. There has to be something to learn here. And I knew it wasn't be careful of what you pray for, as some people have stated. Then God answered me very clearly. He said, in all the love on earth, there is no greater love than that of a parent for their child. A parent will sacrifice all he has, even his own life, for the sake of his child. Just as you have desired to free your child of the pain and afflictions in her life, and have taken her cross to carry for her on this earth, I have sacrificed my son Jesus to take and carry your cross, to free you for eternity. Your freedom came with great cost. At that point, I completely broke down. I understood so much at that very moment. I feel that desire to free my daughter, just as God feels it for us and wants to save us. I feel the suffering it's costing me. But Ditto is so very worth it to me, just as we are to God. I understand why Jesus did not call 10,000 angels to stop it, and why he stayed on that cross till the death of his body. He wanted to free us because he loves us more than he loves himself. I said, I get it, Lord. Wow. What an amazing revelation. But it's not like God to do this glorious thing unless there's more to it. God, what am I supposed to do with this? This awesome revelation. Instantly, I wanted others to know, to understand. Someone, anyone. Well, by now you should all be agreeing with me that there's always a bigger picture. And just a couple hours later, my phone rang, and it was Carol. That's when she told me how she shared a couple of my stories, including the last asking for the psoriasis, and how they would love it if I could make a video sharing the story myself. Carol was not aware of the revelation I had gotten only a couple hours before that. That's when I saw the bigger picture. Now you have become part of that someone, that anyone I wanted to share this wonderful revelation with. Can you see the bigger picture now too? Well, hold on, because it was only 2 days later. God gave me something else. While organizing this video, he gave me something a little hard to swallow. Jesus took my punishment. He took my curse upon himself when he willingly went to the cross, just as he did for you. And I'm so thankful for what he endured to give me my freedom, my salvation. Today, my hands and my feet are a constant reminder of it. But listen to this. If I willingly sin just because I know I won't burn in hell for it, or just because I know how merciful, loving, and forgiving God is, or just because Jesus' blood has covered me, then tell me, how am I honoring the blood he spilled for me? If I disregard Jesus, his suffering, his sacrifice, that way, well, it would be like Ditto, having absolutely no regard for the suffering and sacrifice I'm going through to take it away from her. Do you understand what I'm saying? We all know that Ditto could never, ever be like that. It's impossible for her, because I'm her mother, and she loves me dearly. She hates my suffering. But don't we say we love Jesus dearly too? Don't we even sing it? Yeah. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today. God bless every one of you. And thank you so much for letting me take part in this. Bye-bye.